there could be someone like me, very idealistic. Hey, I believe in small, limited government. I want the citizens to have more freedom. I believe that the more individual freedoms we have, the more economic prosperity there would be. But pretty much when they use those talking points, it's just empty promises. It's just lip service. And
Right.
so I became more and more disillusioned, I guess you could say. And so when I moved to Tuscaloosa 2 years ago, one of the first things I do, and I've moved a lot, both growing up and as an adult, is I would look to see who are my elected representatives.
Right.
And I grew up in the States, so I was very familiar with Senator Shelby, who just retired. He had been there a long time. But I was less familiar with the 25-year incumbent congressperson, Robert Aderholt. And so I went and reviewed his record, because I um, want to know who's my representative, where do they stand on things.
Right.
And um, I was just really kind of shocked when I actually combed through his voting record. 25 years. At the very beginning of his career, he was a big pork barrel spender. So trying to bring home pork projects to Alabama as much as he could.
Would
And
you say that he's a tax and spend Republican?
well, it's funny. I think it's worse than a tax and spend Republican because he actually does vote to lower taxes. The problem is you can't do that and spend even more.
Right.
So he votes for these bloated omnibus spending bills, which
Hmm.
again, it's like the only I believe this the way the system was supposed to work, Marty, is you have a single issue, you debate it, you vote it up or down. But basically what they do is the
Right.
leadership of both of the two old parties go into a smoky filled room and they come out with a 900-page bill and they put it on their desk and say, "Hey, we're going to vote on this in 4 hours." And
And
I need
nobody
you
has time to read the bill.
nobody reads the bill. And so after reviewing, right? He voted to send both our brave men and women and our money over to Iraq and Afghanistan. He voted for the Patriot Act, which we now know in retrospect has been used against Americans. He kept voting to leave our troops overseas, to keep sending money over there. And so, at least a Democrat is somewhat honest. They'll look you in the eyes and say, "I'm going to raise your taxes." Republicans say, "I'm going to lower your taxes," but then when you're not paying attention because you're taking your kids to soccer and Boy Scouts and everything, they just spend, spend, spend. I mean, he voted for
Right.
the most ridiculous spending, even Obama's cash for clunkers, right? Which in the grand scheme of things is probably just a drop in the bucket, right? But here's the deal. He's he's been in office for 25 years. I believe in term limits, okay? So, that's already kind of one strike. And I say it with all sincerity that even people in Congress that I like, right? So I was a big Ron Paul fan when he served in the House. I know he served for a long time. I would still advocate that, even though he may have been one of the few good states people we had in DC, I believe in term limits because, you don't get very many exceptions to the rule. The rule
Right.
is they all go up there, they completely disassociate with the communities that they're supposed to represent, and they become a part of that metropolitan Washington D.C.
Machine.
machine. Exactly.
Hmm.
So that's the first strike. 25 years. I'm not. That's too long. The second was his voting record and the fact that he's voted for all this increased spending. And I think the stat that most blows my mind is that while he's been in office, the national debt has increased 600%. So in 1998, it was $5 trillion, and it's now just crossed $31 trillion. And
Hmm.
so, for anyone that believes in fiscal responsibility, fiscal conservatism, or balanced budgets, there is no other word but failure to describe him and all the other politicians in DC, because you've heard the phrase they spend our money like drunken sailors. And
Mhm.
I'll ask you, Marty, the country's $31 trillion in debt. You know, do you feel like like what did we get for that, right? 30, like this the International Space Station, I think, was $150 billion. For 31 trillion, we should have colonized the moon by now, right? But the roads are still bad. The schools aren't producing the results that the parents want for their kids. Where did all this money go?